right here on the Anthony Gargano Show. We celebrate last night. What a game. I mean, the way it started and the way it finished. And we're not used to that, especially with the Sixers and the angst that we've been through with this squad. To talk about it, hometown hero. He is amazing. I love him. Missed him during my little, while I was in jail. He is the great Kevin Negandhi. Kev!
And it's first off, it's great to finally join you and talk, and it's specifically great to do it after a win. Because I don't know where our mindset would be if we talked for the first time on this show, which I'm really excited to be a part of, about a Sixers loss. And that first half kind of felt like, here we go again. The energy was not there, and the guys looked shell shocked. But this is a different team, and when you have a coaching staff that's completely different, you have a handful of veterans that are completely different coming off the bench. I think they carried this team until the stars stepped up late.
So take me into the Negandhi household last night, right? Like the kids, because I know the boys are they're going nuts and they're like excited and they're into it, and dad, the whole thing. And because like me, I'm watching the game. I'm going, not the same old stuff, Kev. Like, it's the same old thing. It's a zone. You know what a zone is by this point.
All right, I have a confession here, Ant. Okay, so I'm watching the game downstairs with my kids, and my wife was like, let's go upstairs. We'll wind down. Everybody gets ready for bed and all that. And I'm like, great. All right, we'll go upstairs. And then we started seeing everything fall apart, and suddenly that momentum. And then when they switched, when Adebayo got that second foul, they switched to this specific zone where basically it was two men covering Joel Embiid, and then the rest of that defense was focused on Maxey. So it was the rest of the team, the other three guys had to carry it, and then they're down double digits. And I make a comment to my daughter, and I'm like, maybe we should watch something else, and let's put on some Space Jam 2. And my boy, my oldest, was like, Dad, what are you talking about? I said, maybe there's just some bad juju right now. And he goes, I'm going to keep an eye on the game. I said, please do. Let me know. So we're watching Space Jam 2 because my 7-year-old, she's winding down for bed.
Sure.
And he's keep me posted. And he's like, Dad, are we gonna watch if they come back? And I'm like, let's just see where they're at. So, Ed, you would appreciate this as a father of young boys, teenagers, approaching that teenage age. My 11-year-old's giving me play-by-play of everything. Dad, they cut it to 5. Dad, they cut it to 2. And I'm like, all right. And then I look at my daughter, and I'm like, it's time to switch. And she's like, okay, Dad. Thank you. Because she was thankful that, she could watch something else. And we literally put on, from 10 minutes on, we put the game on. We saw Batum's 3, giving them the lead, and we were locked in. And my oldest, man, he was giving me the Rockies, Phillies updates. He's like, Dad, we're going to blow this game. I said, and I made a comment to him. I said, I am sorry, but this is what it's like to be a Philadelphia fan.
Yes. Yes. They are indoctrinated. And listen, they have no choice. We say it all the time. It chooses us. We were chosen by the soil, and this is the life we have chosen.
100%. And then and I said to him, I was like, this is the Phillies bullpen at the moment. And he's like, we can't lose this game. Then he gives me the update on the Phillies game. I was like, all right, so we're completely locked in. And at one point, my 11-year-old is like, Dad, I can't sit still. My legs, I gotta stand up. I'm gonna wake up the whole house. And we didn't care. We woke up the whole house when Embiid did the N1, the Oubre play, the Lowry falling down, keeping it alive, Batum's block, like all of that. It was amazing. The house knew that the Sixers came back and won that game. And then this morning, I'm taking the 11-year-old to the bus stop, and I'm like, there's one of my favorite things is watching these games with you. And he goes, yeah, but when they win. I said, no, even when they lose. I said, we were at the Super Bowl together, experiencing that with you as a father and as a son. I said, to me, there is nothing better. And he was thankful, and then he moved on to the Knicks. he was talking about the Knicks and what's next, and I was like, let's just soak up where we're at right now. I don't want to even think about New York until Saturday.
Spoken like a true dad, man. You and I have lived parallel lives,
Yeah,
right? Like we were the same kid growing up, loving sports or basketball bat and hanging on football, right?
yeah,
And the whole thing, right? The same thing. And to now seeing it through their eyes, I love the stories because it's the same thing like in my household or, I'm talking to my little Massimo who's 11 and
yeah.
he's doing the same thing. Like I got home last night, I watched with my cousin. I got home last night and I'm like, Anthony, I'm like, Dad, what did you think? Like the whole thing. Because early in the game, I know you had the same feeling I did. Like, this is the same thing? Are you
Same
kidding
thing.
me? Like, Tyrese looks scared, right? Like
He looked,
bad passes, bad
yeah, he
entry
looked.
passes.
And to your point, like I thought it was jitters, and then I started thinking, is this? And I bring this word up because it plays a huge role. Because listen, the energy, it's this word, energy. It changed with chicken,
Yeah.
right? Like energy plays such a role, and I had some PTSD in this game because while you're watching it in the first half, as things are falling apart, and there's no engagement, right? And it took me right back to Game 6 and Game 7 with the Celtics. I mean, immediately, and heads are down, and suddenly at this point, I'm like, oh my god, that's the one thing I think that draws us to Tyrese, his energy. He's not caught in that Sixers vortex of head down in the spring. Oh, right. And listen, Embiid's not right. He's not 100%. He's healthy, but he's not all in healthy, right? And then you just start seeing a little bit of the mopiness early. And I'm like,
Pull
oh my
empty
God,
shorts.
why? We have a new coaching staff. This is not the same thing. And that's the difference from previous years. I said it this morning. You have a coaching staff that understands adjustments, late game adjustments. They can anticipate what's going to happen on the other end as a defensive team, right? That's a credit to Nurse and what they did specifically with the Batum play and Hero coming off the inbounds. They had seen it before, they called it up, and Batum was perfectly there. But the other thing, Batum is not afraid of the moment. If he's not going to make the shot, he's not going to make, but he's going to take the shot, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then Oubre is a phenomenal player with the energy. Regardless of whatever happens, Oubre plays with energy at all times. He feeds off of everybody, right? And then I'll say this. Kyle Lowry is the only way I can describe Kyle Lowry is he's like Lenny Dykstra. I'm not sure. I'm going way back.
That's a great comp. It's a great comp. Totally
We
get it.
all hated Lenny with the Mets. We all hated his guts. And then when he was on our team, he was our guy. He's no longer on our team. I can't stand Lenny Dykstra. That's a different story for another day. But like Kyle Lowry's one of those guys where he does all the little things and like when he dove and he kept that play alive, my 11-year-old was like, Dad, you hated his guts when he was with the Raptors. I said, this is the reason why. Because he does these extra things and he understands championship basketball and that it doesn't have to be pretty and you got to grind. And I loved everything about those three guys and Nick Nurse. And guess who's responsible over the last year to bring all four of those people in? Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey has changed the entire outlook of this team because of Batum in the trade. You get Oubre cheap. I mean, Oubre is a steal. Maybe the best signing
Totally.
of the season, right? Nick Nurse understands how to coach, and he's involved. And then he waited and made sure they got Lowry. And when you have those things play a role, and then the final 4 minutes, Embiid understanding that I have to step up and get everybody involved, completely different player, no longer carrying the entire city on his shoulders, just making the right decisions, it changes everything. And that was the difference in last night's win.
It's so beautifully stated and so spot on. And you mentioned Nick, and one of the things that he did, way he closed with that lineup, was the right lineup. Because Tobias was the ghost again. He was the friendly ghost.
You're right. And listen, if you've ever met Tobias, I love Tobias.
He's a dude. We did hustle together. Like, I love the guy.
Yeah, yes. Phenomenal human being. But here's the thing. Nick Nurse has watched this team for a year now, or for a season. Nick Nurse understands, and he said it afterwards. He was like, he didn't have, he was gassed, right? He basically said that about Tobias. For him to understand that and then say, I got this team, I'm going to make a coaching decision. Let's go with the hot hand on the offense and the guy who understands defensive adjustments there with Hero, because Batum was phenomenal in understanding that concept as a veteran, right? And to me, that is a coach who's saying, take it on me. If I make the bad decision, it's my responsibility. I'm not putting it on the player. And too often it was finger pointing to the player after games previously. We have a coach now who says, if we make a bad decision, it'll be my decision. And that's because I'm sticking with Batum.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember in a moment like this, a guy like Batum, any sport, who stepped up, like that kind of role player,
Yeah.
who stepped up and won us again. Because like you, I'm sure you and I are thinking the same thing. Like, I just want to run. Like, I want to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I want to play Boston. I can't play Boston in the first round coming off that kind of loss. I have no chance. I need to get into a rhythm, and then I'll take my chances with Boston in May.
I completely agree with you. And this Knicks series is going to be critical on mentality, right? Listen, you're going to have, now you need the stars to step up, right? But you're also going to have to find a way to punch back. This is going to be a physically nasty series. Jalen Brunson is a top 5 MVP guy because he understands the nuance of the game, his physicality. He understands when to score. He understands when to carry a team, right? So we need Embiid to have average 30 in the series. We need Tyrese to average 25 in the series. And we also need moments where you're going to punch back. Where you're going to have to steal maybe 2 in New York. And I'm okay with that because that environment is actually going to be great because the Knicks fan base is very similar to the Sixers fan base where stuff hits the fan and, oh my God, things get tight. Right? And I think Philly could play really well in that environment. Joel likes MSG. I think Tyrese also needs to understand that they're going to look at the film in Miami versus Miami, and he's going to see all these different looks now, and they're going to play him differently. He's going to have to attack, and then go to the line. And if you can do that, then you're going to create open looks on the outside because that's what they did, right? How did you break the zone in the third quarter? You started attacking the lanes, and then you could clear up some passes.
Yep.
But if you're going to stay outside and stay at 30 feet out, you're not going to be able to create some momentum offense. So I don't want to talk about Boston yet, and I want to talk about the Knicks series because I think it's going to be a dogfight. But last night showed me that if they get punched in the face, they will punch back, and that's what you need.
No,
you
totally.
Need back in a series like this.
And you know, it's funny, like, and I'm with you. I only brought up Boston, meaning that I didn't want to play Boston in the first round, like coming up, because you're done. The Knicks thing is a bit like, I'm curious at how you guys are going to cover this thing because it's such a great story. The Sixers and Knicks have never really been good at the same time, right? Like, you go back to like when Riley and the Knicks were good in '94, the Sixers were horrible. You got to go back to like Michael Ray Richardson, and I hated that team. They swept the Sixers. Like
that Nets team. Oh,
remember that?
Oh, '84. Michael Ray Richardson, who was phenomenal, had to deal with, of course, cocaine and all his issues. He was unbelievable in that series.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart. I think it was 84 or 85. It broke my heart, Ant, because that team was so good, that 83 team into 84. And Chuck, man. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I know. Hey, well, I got you, and I can't not bring this up because nobody is better at college football and the draft than you.
Yeah. Let's talk.
And I like. Let's just talk birds for a second. It's so deep, this draft, in offensive linemen, in edge and corner. Yeah. Kind of what we know how we'll trade up at the drop of a dime. What are you kind of looking at? What's your wish list for them?
Obviously, I would love a day 1 impact cornerback, day 2 impact linebacker. I also know Howie Roseman, and we all know Howie Roseman. I don't think he sits at 22. I think he's going to target a guy in the teens, and if that guy's not available, he'll find a way to drop back and collect more pieces and assets. Because no one does it better than Howie in understanding, hey, let me collect more resources down the road for maybe day 2 and day 3. So let's just say at 22, ideally in the first round, wherever they pick in that first round, if they pick in the first round, I would love a cornerback. You mentioned this draft being, and I hope you don't mind. Let's go longer. I want to talk draft with you. I hope you don't mind, right?
You kidding me? Do you remember last year we did the mock? We might
Yes.
have to do that next week just to.
Yeah, and I'll
even if
be
we
actually
have to tape it. I want to do it. All right, I
Hey,
don't care.
I'll be in Detroit with SportsCenter.
Yes.
We're going to be live from there. I cannot wait.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be hosting the 6 p.m. SportsCenter Wednesday from Detroit, and then Thursday and Friday. But I cannot wait. But I will say,
proud of you.
So I would love a cornerback. I also know, like, the way this draft is shaping up, which actually favors the Eagles in the first round, is you have a ton of quarterbacks and you have a ton of wide receivers that we don't need to worry about, right? So as a result, you won't see a defensive player probably till the 8th pick with the Falcons. You're going to see potentially 15 to maybe 20 offensive players, and that includes the tackle position, taken in the first round, right? Which would be, if you go past 19, it's a record. Tackle, you can have probably 6 to 7 guys going in the first round at tackle. So they can go with Mims, potentially, who has a ton of talent, not a lot of experience. They did this with Juergens. They did this with Dickerson, where he's not playing immediately, but you slide him in, and whatever happens with Lane Johnson over the next 2 years, right? Mims' size is wow. Like, holy cow. And he's still learning, and get him to Stoutland University, and you're good to go. And he's another Georgia Bulldog, right? So go figure. They're going to continue to tap into that resource. I also think if there's a defensive lineman there, they're going to take it at the spot that they want. They're going to take a defensive lineman. I would love cornerback.
Me too.
Juan Mitchell out of Toledo is so good, but he's probably going to be the first or second one on the board, right? If you get Terrion Arnold, McKinstry, those two guys are phenomenal because they come from Alabama. And if you are playing as a secondary guy under Nick Saban, you are ready to play immediately because that's what Nick's specialty was, right?
And it's amazing, right? Because going into the season, we thought Kool-Aid was going to be the best, and Arnold turns out to be the better corner. Like,
exactly. Yeah. Well, and that is the growth of specifically what Nick does, right? Saban's so good with cornerbacks, and look at the history of cornerbacks coming out of Alabama under him. They're just unbelievable. So I think that the 3 positions, it's no secret, defensive line, offensive line, cornerback. Our wish list, I think you and me would be, cornerback. Wiggins maybe, right?
Got great speed, man. Wiggins can run. Now, are they, like, to me, like, I don't know if he's hung up and he wants a man corner because Wiggins is a man corner.
Yes.
Like, he's not a good space corner yet, but, if Vic Fangio would like that, I think he can run that kid, man. Wiggins interests me. In the right scheme, he could be really good.
Yeah, and you know what? You can get Wiggins potentially later in the round.
Yep.
Like at 22, if he's there, I wouldn't be surprised if Howie's like, all right, we're going to move back a little bit because somebody's going to maybe want a wide receiver to jump up. Like, let me tell you, Brian Thomas, the phenomenal kid at LSU, I doubt he'll be available, but we can dream. If he's available.
Oh, my God. If you got him, because of neighbors, nobody realizes how good that kid is.
Kid is so good. I mean, he would be a steal. It'd be scary in this offense. We're just being a little greedy. But I will also play another scenario. If he's there at 22, you get on the phone with the Bills and be like, "What do you got?
Yeah.
Give us something because guess what? You want a wide receiver because you lost Stephon Diggs.
Yeah,
I just don't think he'll be available. There could be a guy that the Bills like, and if Thomas is off the board and goes to Jacksonville, in the teens, like maybe you call the Bills and be like, "You want to move up 5 spots, 5 or 6 spots? Let's move up," and then I could see him get somebody that he wants later in the round that is specifically Howie, and then get him maybe somebody next year when it comes to an asset, when it comes to like a day 2 pick.
So I got to ask you, because Did you got to explain to me the JJ McCarthy thing, right? Because I've been hearing now Washington is enamored by JJ, and I'm going, how? Like Jaden Daniels, I know that Jaden Daniels, first of all, his eyes are sometimes are down, right? And he's got to grow a little bit, recognizing rush. And they talk about his slight build, but I mean, I watch Jaden Daniels, I go, that kid's a playmaker. And I look at JJ McCarthy, and I still see, the Penn State game where he didn't throw the ball in the second half.
Yep. I think I did a show with Mel Kiper Jr. the other day, a draft show, and Mel brought up a stat that blew me away. He said that J.J. McCarthy threw 34 fourth-quarter passes last season. I was like, what? Well, and he's like, compare that to Michael Penix, who threw for over 100 passes. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Now, when this offseason began, I had one scout tell me, specifically, JJ, his stock is going to go through the roof because of three things. Physically, his build, right? Second, he's a winner. And third, he's going to win every single interview. He is going to nail every single interview, and teams are going to be enamored. Now, with Washington, I view it this way. I think Washington is entertaining these guys because they're waiting to see if somebody's going to try to move up to take Jaden Daniels. And then they slide back, and then they can get J.J. McCarthy later. I think Washington's just sitting there and saying, hey, we're open. Even though Jaden Daniels is a slam dunk pick, we're open because we need help. Same thing with the Patriots. Same thing with the Cardinals. Who do you guys want? Are the Vikings on the board? Are they on the phone? Because I think the Chargers are going to dance with anybody. They want extra picks, right? But they're going to talk to the Vikings. So the key will be the three teams at 11, the Vikings right now, 12, the Broncos, and 13, the Raiders. The Raiders will do anything to get Jaden Daniels. Antonio Pierce and Jaden Daniels, they were together at Arizona State. Antonio Pierce loves Jaden Daniels, and for good reason. He would do anything to get him. They just don't have the assets right now. They'd have to give up a hell of a lot. But I think Washington is just entertaining. Hey, you guys available? You guys want it? Get on the phone here and let's talk. And that's why they're keeping all their options open. So to me, the most fascinating part is who takes Daniels, and then what do the Patriots do at 3?
Wow, that's fascinating. That's going to be wild. And what is Penix? I like Penix, man. I'm a Penix fan. Yeah. He's a great kid. I sat down with him. He's got just a ridiculous arm. I'm curious. Like, where does he go?
His medicals are the issue, of course, because the knee surgery twice in the shoulder. His arm's insane. And if he didn't have a medical issue, he'd be a top 5 pick. His arm is phenomenal. Thing hums, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders cannot get Jaden Daniels because they just don't have enough. The Jaden Daniels, the Michael Penix conversation shifts in the 20s. And you see potentially the Raiders, the Rams, or the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Moving into the first round, you get that 5th-year option no matter what. They jump into that first round, and they take Penix. Ryan Grubb, remember Ryan Grubb. Ryan Grubb was the OC with Washington, the Huskies. Then he goes to Alabama, follows DeBoer. Then while he's there, within days, he gets the call, hey, do you want to be an OC of an NFL team? And he goes back to Seattle, right? So he's with the Seahawks. And listen, the Seahawks have not been open about, hey, our guy is Geno Smith, right? And they made the trade for Sam Howell. So what do? Grubb knows specifically everything about Penix. So keep an eye on the Raiders. Love the big arm of Penix, as well as Seattle. Keep an eye on those two teams and how this plays out with Penix.
And I guess the last one, and he's going to be the third, I guess, is May. Who likes Drake, man? Like, who do you think is enamored with him?
By the way, first off, I love May. I think May was hurt really, really badly with a new offensive coordinator and then losing two weapons on the outside.
Big weapons.
That plays a role here.
Yep.
The tape, though, doesn't help him against, a team like Virginia, which was horrendous, and how he played against Georgia Tech, right? So I think I think the Patriots view this specifically as we like him. Can he change our team? We have a ton of holes, right? And he's a guy that needs, I think, he can't start. He's not a day one Sunday starter. It's okay to sit a guy a little bit. Patrick Mahomes sat. Yeah, look what happened. Jalen Hurts
Yep.
sat right? Because he had to. But look what happened, right? They have Jacoby Brissett. I think the Patriots, though, and Robert Kraft also wants to have an identity with an offensive guy. And that is specific. He doesn't want to go with like, hey, we're a defensive mind. He wants to, hey, let's build this team like our next Tom Brady. And that is a guy like Drake May. So I think the Patriots, don't be surprised that the Vikings are intrigued and enamored and try to move up to get.
I can totally see that.
You know, at 11-20, when you have 11-23 and you have teams specifically like the Patriots, the Cardinals, and the Chargers who are picking 3, 4, and 5 and need a ton of depth and help and impact players, the Vikings are sitting there and saying, all right, what can we do? Meanwhile, those teams are sitting there and saying, what can you add to the 11-23? Can you give us a first rounder next year? Can we get more things in this process? Because I wouldn't be surprised if another scenario, if the Cardinals trade out at 4 and they get the 11th pick and then they trade back in to the top 6 to get the second wide receiver, which would be Malik Neighbors instead of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, it's going to be wild, man. I love the fact you're going to be there, man. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be incredible. Let's even if we have to tape something, we got to do something like.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I can't wait. We may have to. I mean, if we want to do it on Thursday, it'll be a quiet morning as I prep for.
All right, let's do it. Perfect. That'll be awesome. Fantastic, buddy. I got to tell you, I missed you, man. It's so great to talk to you, and God bless those boys.
Honestly, Ed, you know what I miss you the most? Listen, obviously, we've been texting. I miss talking to you on the air because there is something therapeutic about when we go through the same thing as a city, right?
Yes.
I'm not saying we love misery loves company. No, but there's something therapeutic when we could just all do this together, right? And at the last 6 months, watching what the Phillies went through, watching how the Eagles fell apart, the experience of what we've gone, the ups and downs here as a Philadelphia fan. Oh, shoot, let's not even bring up the last 3 weeks with the Flyers. It's been a long time, and it's good to talk to you, buddy. All right, you're my brother.
Love you, brother. God bless your family, man. You're the best.
Same to you. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you back.
Yeah, you're the greatest. Kevin Negandhi.